When it comes to Jean-Claude Van Damme's action movies, the legendary figure of the 1980s and 1990s comes to mind. However, this fame has largely faded since then, and today, he is more often associated with direct-to-DVD releases. In this video, we will reveal unknown secrets about this action hero that have long been kept from the public. So, come with us to uncover the hidden truth about Jean-Claude Van Damme. Let's take a look at Jean-Claude Van Damme's early life that made him not just an action star. Unlike many actors born into show business, Van Damme's roots were quite ordinary. His mother was a florist, and his father was an accountant. Growing up in Brussels, Belgium, Van Damme faced a language barrier, where his father spoke French and his mother spoke Dutch. He turned to cartoons like the Flintstones to learn English. Who knew Fred and Wilma could become language teachers? Beyond overcoming the language barrier, Van Damme became fluent not only in English, but in multiple languages. This proved that he was not only physical, but also intelligent. Before he became known for his striking physique and jaw-dropping strength, Van Damme was just an ordinary boy, nicknamed the Muscles of Brussels. The nickname didn't sit well with him at first. He even thought it made him look like a shellfish. So, how did this Muscles of Brussels come about? It all started with his father's decision to give him a harsh education. At the age of 10, his father decided he needed to toughen his son up and enrolled him in karate school. Young Jean-Claude was a bit of a nerd, and his father wanted to give him muscle strength. So Van Damme started training intensively in kickboxing, taekwondo, Muay Thai, and weightlifting. And by the age of 15, he was already making a name for himself in the competitive world of karate. But besides all these muscular pursuits, Van Damme had another intriguing hobby: ballet. Known for his high-flying kicks and impressive moves, his fondness for dance was surprising. At 16, he took the unexpected step of taking up ballet. While most teenagers were busy with high school activities, Van Damme was busy wearing tights and perfecting his plie moves. He considered ballet not only an art form, but also one of the most demanding sports. "If you can pass a ballet workout, you can pass any sport," he famously said, a process he continued for 5 years. While other action stars were putting on muscle and developing their tough guy persona, Van Damme was learning the art of ballet, and these skills played a big part in his ability to perform high-flying kicks and acrobatic moves on screen. Apart from ballet, Van Damme's other passion was karate, and he was no ordinary fighter. While many karate students struggled for years to earn their black belt, Van Damme earned it at the age of 18. His skill and dedication in karate proved itself in semi-contact championships. He also started bodybuilding at a young age and eventually won the title of Mr. Belgium. With the combination of ballet, karate, and bodybuilding, it is no wonder that Van Damme has achieved an impressive knockout record. Jean-Claude Van Damme's journey in the martial arts world is legendary. With 44 knockouts and 4 defeats in semi-contact bouts, and 18 knockouts and only 1 defeat in full contact fights, Van Damme has established himself as a force in the martial arts arena. He came second in a 3-day karate tournament, defeating 25 opponents. However, despite his talent and success, he always faced skeptics. Van Damme faced a big test at the age of 20 when he took on his former teammate, Patrick Tugel. Tugel had beaten Van Damme twice, and Van Damme had already achieved a victory. Which action star's movie career has followed a straight line? Van Damme was a young man with no acting experience, limited education, and great ambition. It all started with a small, uncredited role in a Belgian-French drama, in which Van Damme was just an extra. But this ignited in him the desire to do more. However, before he could step into Hollywood, he had to change his image. The name Jean-Claude Van Varenberg didn't seem cool, so he adopted a cooler name, and thus Van Damme was born. With his new name, Van Damme decided to conquer the American movie scene. But how did he cross the Atlantic with big dreams and empty pockets? He took out a loan and opened a gym in Brussels called California Gym. Although he no longer runs the business there, the gym helped him save money for a ticket to Hollywood. With some determination and a few dollars, Van Damme finally stepped into the land of opportunity. But things didn't go as smoothly as expected. With a paltry $5,000 and no command of the English language, he began living out of his car, sleeping on the street and stealing for food. While living a life far from the glamour of Hollywood, Van Damme never gave up. He worked many odd jobs, driving, laying carpets, delivering pizzas. And just when everything was starting to look dark, luck finally smiled on him. "Every day I thank and pray in advance for my success," Van Damme says. And guess what? His dream came true. Van Damme's great luck finally knocked on his door, and he became one of the biggest action stars of the 80s and 90s. In 1982-1983, young Van Damme recognized that it was the legendary Chuck Norris who would make him famous. At the time, he was working as a doorman at Chuck Norris's restaurant and dreamed of becoming a big action star. Norris was impressed by Van Damme's kickboxing skills and invited him to join his team as a stuntman in a movie. Although it was a small role, it was the opportunity Van Damme had been waiting for. It was a big hit and a turning point in his career. The release of Bloodsport in 1988 was a turning point in Van Damme's career. The movie grossed $35 million, made him a star. But great success can also bring great disappointments. Jean-Claude Van Damme had an interesting adventure about his potential role in the movie Predator. Initially, he was excited to be one of the first choices as the alien character. However, things went hilariously wrong. Van Damme got into a situation where he was asked to jump like a frog in front of a bright red plastic costume, a camouflage device, and a green screen. This didn't match the fight scenes he had in mind, and he was left in a situation where he couldn't even see his face on the screen. This led to his removal from his legendary role in Predator, and the producers chose Kevin Peter Hall, who looked more realistic and menacing. As a result, it was a career disappointment for Van Damme. In the 1990s, Van Damme rose to great fame as action movies reached their peak. However, after his career peaked, he experienced some difficulties in both his personal and professional life. There were some turbulent periods between the turning points of his life in Hollywood. Failures in his investments, family problems, and personal struggles began to affect his movie career. However, Van Damme's legendary status continued, and he regained popularity in the early 2000s. His return was enthusiastically welcomed by action fans and cemented his place in Hollywood. In conclusion, the life of Jean-Claude Van Damme represents the journey of a legendary action star, full of both successes and challenges. A figure recognized for his extraordinary talents in martial arts and cinema, he has left his mark in every era. Van Damme was constantly complaining about the unbearable heat, which eventually caused him to collapse like a poorly executed high kick. The team soon showed Van Damme the way out and replaced him with someone more suited to the scorching conditions of the Predator suit. Van Damme, however, has no regrets about his short-lived Predator experiment. In fact, he was quite relieved to be rid of the suffocating suit. After all, he has had great success with movies like Bloodsport, and the salary he received in the process made him forget about his previous difficulties. Van Damme's first taste of stardom in Hollywood came with a $1 million payout for his lead role in the movie Universal Soldier. From there, his earnings only increased, reaching $6.2 million for his role in Street Fighter. He had come a long way from the days when even sleeping in a car was considered a reasonable living arrangement. As Van Damme's star continued to rise, so did his determination to take his art seriously. During the filming of Double Impact, he noticed a producer diverting funds to another action film. Not backing down from a challenge, Van Damme challenged the producer in a way that was unique only to him, by throwing a papaya at his head. Fortunately for the producer and unfortunately for the wall behind him, he escaped being targeted by the fruit. Van Damme's passion for fast-paced action apparently transcended the confines of the movie set. However, just when it seemed as if Van Damme's life couldn't get any more dramatic, he found a new interest that almost ended his career: Van Damme's addictions. By the mid-1990s, Van Damme had it all: fame and fortune. By his mid-30s, he was famous, but also caught up in a dangerous wave of substance abuse. Like many celebrities of that era, Van Damme was caught in the web of addiction. He was using about $110,000 worth of cocaine every week, which is about 10 grams a day. This didn't make him very pleasant to be around. On the set of Street Fighter, for example, Van Damme brought his habit with him and turned the whole production into a chaotic mess. But when you're the biggest action star in town, they miss a lot of things. Instead of firing him, the producers decided to hire a babysitter. This didn't make him very pleasant to be around. On the set of Street Fighter, for example, Van Damme brought his habit with him and turned the whole production into a chaotic mess. But when you're the biggest action star in town, they miss a lot of things. Instead of firing him, the producers decided to hire a babysitter. But that didn't go quite as planned. His babysitter became his accomplice. But Van Damme wasn't just obsessed with one substance. He was also good with prescription drugs and alcohol. In fact, his love of alcohol got him into trouble in Hollywood when he was caught driving dangerously. The result? 3 years probation, mandatory driving lessons, a 90-day license revocation, and a hefty $1,200 fine. And Van Damme's substance abuse reached such dangerous levels that he had to check himself into rehab once, but not for long. It got to the point where he needed a whole bunch of substances to function like a semi-normal person. Things were spiraling out of control during this period. Not only was his personal life in danger, but also his career. And as if substance abuse wasn't enough, Van Damme had another addiction: women. Van Damme's marriage scandals. As an action star with a life full of high kicks and high drama, Jean-Claude Van Damme managed to keep the tabloids busy with his romantic adventures. With a history of 5 marriages, Van Damme has had his fair share of marital scandals. Van Damme's love affair began in 1980 when he married Maria Rodriguez, but the union ended after 4 years, unable to withstand the winds of change in his life. This paved the way for his second marriage, this time to Cynthia Derderian. But this too was short-lived and ended with Jean-Claude's acting career just getting started. But he did not give up on love and soon said yes again, this time to the talented bodybuilder and actress Gladys Portugues. However, even the muscles of a bodybuilder could not prevent rumors of infidelity that brought their marriage crashing down. With rumors of infidelity resurfacing during the filming of Universal Soldier, Jean-Claude once again embarked on the path of marriage, this time to Darcy Lapierre in 1994. However, history repeated itself, and this union also hit the rocks. It was clear that Jean-Claude Van Damme had a lot of ups and downs when it came to love, but one of Hollywood's handsome actors wouldn't be without a little scandal and intrigue. Speaking of scandal, rumors began to circulate that Jean-Claude often found himself in the middle of extramarital affairs. Rumors that he was with pop princess Kylie Minogue stirred the pot for years. For years he denied this affair, but finally the truth came out. Yes, Jean-Claude was indeed in a passionate relationship with Kylie. He attributed it to Kylie's irresistible beauty, saying it resulted in a beautiful love. Sounds like a classic irresistible beauty excuse, doesn't it? However, throughout these intrigues, Jean-Claude had a wife waiting at home. At the time of his affair, Van Damme had just married his 4th wife, Darcy Lapierre. However, sneaking around was nothing new for him, as Darcy herself was his mistress from a previous marriage. Apparently, Van Damme likes to keep things interesting when it comes to romance. Surprisingly, he never realized his relationship with his wife, Kylie Minogue. He admitted this affair 20 years later in an interview. The fact that he cheated on his new bride is scandalous, but what makes it even more shocking is that she was more than just a bride. Van Damme's wife became pregnant early in their marriage, and instead of being a supportive wife, as one would expect, she traveled to Thailand to star in action movies and indulge herself with compliments from fans, as she had done in her previous marriage. This is not a picture of marital bliss, is it? On his return, he played the role of husband and father for another 3 years, without any mention of his infidelity, until his wife finally had enough and filed for divorce. However, infidelity alone was not the reason for the end of their marriage. In fact, Darcy Lapierre filed for divorce 3 times during their marriage. Darcy claimed that he physically harmed her with his frequent tantrums. On one occasion, she was so badly injured that she had to be hospitalized. This was the last straw, and Lapierre obtained a protection order from Van Damme because he was completely intimidating her. During the divorce process, she sought full custody of their 2-year-old son and $150,000 a month in alimony, plus nearly $300,000 in court costs. After all these events, for most people, the fourth wife would have been the last. But this was not the case for Van Damme. Surprisingly, Van Damme married once again, this time to one of his former wives, Gladys Portugues. Van Damme was first married to Gladys in 1987, but the union ended after another relationship ended in infidelity. He subsequently married and divorced his mistress, his set lover, but somehow returned to his ex-wife, Gladys. Rumors and scandals about Van Damme. In 2009, the beloved Jean-Claude Van Damme fell into a somewhat troubled situation. He met a young Ukrainian woman while dancing in a private club in Thailand, and this was his usual place to meet his mistresses. However, he was still married to his fifth wife, Gladys. As in such cases, Van Damme instantly fell in love with the young Ukrainian woman and began a secret affair with her. This included secretly visiting her in Ukraine. They became a secret couple, and the young woman posed as his assistant at private parties. However, good things must come to an end, especially when it comes to illicit affairs. The truth tends to come out, and Van Damme's loving family life was in danger. A difficult decision loomed on the horizon. Eventually, his wife found out that he had cheated and started the divorce process for the second time. Apparently, this affair had lasted for years, and no matter how fond Van Damme was of his young Ukrainian mistress, he eventually felt that keeping his family together was the priority, especially since this was the second attempt at marriage. Now, things are getting really interesting. His wife, perhaps feeling a little generous, or perhaps just cunning, offered to turn a blind eye to Van Damme's betrayal. At a price, of course. Van Damme received a brand new mansion, among other luxury gifts. Apparently, love really does come at a price. So Van Damme left his mistress and reconnected with his wife. However, don't be in a hurry to think that dear Jean-Claude might still be keeping an eye out. After all, once the eye is out, it's always out. Action star Jean-Claude Van Damme, known for his martial arts skills and on-screen charisma, has been involved in yet another scandal in recent years. This time, things got even more dramatic, and he found himself in an exclusive champagne bar in Brussels with a woman half his age. Apparently, Van Damme and the young woman got on well and spent a night of flirtation and excitement. However, things took a questionable turn because Van Damme, with his confident nature, invited her to his home. When she refused, Van Damme did not take no for an answer and looked for another place for their date. It's no secret that Van Damme has often benefited from the attention of women who admire him for his good looks and physical charm. But when faced with rejection, Van Damme's ego prevailed, and he continued to pursue her despite her rejection. Eventually, he forced her into an awkward situation in a public restroom. Fortunately, the woman managed to break free from his grasp and sought help, finding herself in a visibly uncomfortable and vulnerable situation. Unfortunately, this disturbing incident was not isolated. It turns out that Van Damme was involved in yet another scandal, this time involving more than one person. Apparently, Van Damme is not so lucky when it comes to respecting boundaries. There was an incident in which Van Damme and two others allegedly tried to lure a woman into a hotel room. Subsequently, Van Damme forced the woman and the two other men had their own fun in the same bed. We all know Van Damme's penchant for playing tough guy roles on screen, but it seems he may have taken this persona a little too seriously. In this adventure, Van Damme was reportedly under the influence of a little too much alcohol. Also, in 1997, Van Damme once again got into trouble, but this time it wasn't with women, but with Frank Dux. Dux, the kickboxer Van Damme portrayed in the movie Bloodsport, claimed that Van Damme had not paid him for his contributions to the 1996 film The Quest. However, Dux didn't stop there. He also questioned Van Damme's martial arts skills, claiming that the famous star couldn't even perform a simple front flip. Also, Steven Seagal once questioned Van Damme's championship record. Apparently, Van Damme couldn't handle these rumors and controversies, but that's part of being a Hollywood star, right? Beyond all this drama and legal battles, Van Damme also faced his own personal demons. The rise and fall of a kickboxing champion. At the height of his success, Jean-Claude Van Damme was the talk of the town. Universal Studios couldn't resist the lure of this kickboxing star and wanted to sign him for 3 movies. They offered him a tempting $12 million per movie and felt like they had hit the jackpot. But little did they know that Van Damme's ego was about to reach epic proportions. When everything he touched turned to gold, he thought it was time to play the system. Not only did he ask for a raise, he demanded that they double their offer and pay him on par with Jim Carrey. Unsurprisingly, Universal Studios couldn't believe what they were hearing, and without saying a word, they just laughed and hung up the phone. Thus, things turned around for Van Damme. Word of his extravagant demands spread, and suddenly, no one wanted to approach him. For the next 10 years, Van Damme starred in low-budget action movies that barely made it onto DVD shelves. But even this was not the worst. He started crashing cars into clubs at night, creating chaos with the paparazzi and adding more and more lines to his daily dose. The once shining star had really lost his sparkle. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any worse for Van Damme, something much more catastrophic happened. Jean-Claude Van Damme, the iconic action star, suffered a major breakdown due to health problems. Van Damme was diagnosed with rapid cycling bipolar disorder, a condition that went unnoticed for years. But eventually, everything fell into place. Van Damme began treatment and started taking emotion-stabilizing medication that helped him manage his condition. He openly discussed his condition in interviews and even bared his soul in the movie JCVD, in which he played himself, showing the struggles of a broken man. Like many others who have experienced this condition, Van Damme found himself at a dark crossroads, struggling with thoughts of giving up on life. But with the right support, she found her way back. I had no reason to live. I wasn't excited about anything. Then, you have to find your self-confidence again, and slowly, every part of you becomes valuable again. It's not the drugs you have to solve a problem with yourself, she reflected. After overcoming her cocaine habit, she took bold steps towards a brighter future. We've all heard stories of celebrities making a triumphant comeback after hitting rock bottom. But few have experienced a journey as crazy as Jean-Claude Van Damme's. It all started with a realization. Van Damme took a hard look at himself and decided it was time to take control of his life. With her new understanding of how her brain works, she embarked on a mission to regain her health and rebuild her career. As a first order of business, Van Damme abandoned the traditional rehabilitation method. He opted for the cold turkey method and followed a rigorous exercise program to overcome physical and mental pain. And what happened? It gave an excellent result. The man was back in shape and ready to challenge the world again. But this time, Van Damme didn't want to just grab any role. People wanted to see the real him, the man behind the martial arts moves. So he started small and took on small roles in big productions. From a voice role in Kung Fu Panda 2 to his own reality show, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Behind Closed Doors. Jean-Claude Van Damme is currently working on a new movie called Frenchie. In this movie, he not only plays the lead role, but also acts as writer, producer, editor, and director. Van Damme's return to action brings us back to all his classic movies. From Bloodsport to Kickboxer, he gave us unforgettable moments on the big screen. So, what is your favorite Van Damme movie? Share it with us in the comments section. Thank you for watching. For a more exciting story, click on the next video on the screen.